Warring clans in Morobe surrender their guns. PNG Electoral Commission launches corporate plan. And the military on a mission for young minds.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Friday's news. The Council of Public Sector Unions has given the government until the end of this month to settle outstanding employer payments to Number One Super. These outstanding payments are for the more than 6,000 retired public servants. COPSU Chair and President of Public Employees Association President Robert Kutapai made known the position of COPSU following a meeting this week. Furthermore, COPSU has also called on the government to halt all public sector reforms, which may cause redundancies that may result in more public servants exiting the workforce. These demands are part of several outstanding issues that were put to the government earlier this year. The PNG Electoral Commission launched its Corporate Plan 2018 to 2022 this morning in Port Moresby. Electoral Commissioner Patilius Gamato says the plan is to improve the current electoral system used in the country. Gamato says legislative reforms are a major change to guide the Commission.
Which will be implemented from...
The head of the Electoral Commission says the corporate plan clearly states the functions and reforms that will be undertaken to provide better electoral services throughout the country. Mr. Gamato says the plan is significant because it captures input from the private sector, development partners and NGOs and adapts to international standards.
To address challenges identified in the following strategic pillars. The legal framework. It tries to improve and support a constitutional, legal and regulatory framework to enhance the authority of the PNG Electoral Commission according to the national and international standards.
On the back of the 2017 national elections, the Electoral Commission was criticized of poorly managing the elections. Gamato says the reforms will now enable the Commission to be prepared and equipped with necessary capacity to carry out its role.
This new 2018-22 corporate plan presents an innovative approach that will guide the PNG Electoral Commission towards better electoral service delivery in our country. PNGEC will rely on our all-of-government approach, the all-of-society approach for the needed support from the government and the stakeholders to execute this plan.
Guest Speaker and Goilela MP William Sam believes the corporate plan will make a huge impact as elections play a significant role in the progress of development and welfare of the country.
We commend our partners for their professional input in this important plan that will surely guide future election activities in our country.
The 5-year corporate plan was launched by MP Sam and Commissioner Gamato. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
Gold sponsors for the APEC Business Advisory Council have been recognized for their support towards Papua New Guinea's hosting of the APEC CEO Summit later this year. According to APEC Minister Justin Tichenko, the support shown by companies towards PNG's hosting of the CEO Summit is timely and is a show of confidence in the economy of the country.
The APEC Business Advisory Council of PNG this week hosted an event to acknowledge its gold sponsors. According to APEC PNG member Wayne Golding, this support from corporate sponsors was crucial to the country's successful hosting of the APEC CEO Summit and related APEC events.
Without your sponsorship, this will never have happened. There's no doubt about it. And we were so lucky that you were able to come forward with your sponsorship so early, because that provided us confidence to move forward. And it is a difficult task for a small economy to host the biggest economic summit in the world. And people say it can't be. I said it is, because it's 21 countries represent 60% of the global business.
APEC Minister Justin Tichenko also acknowledged the support from corporate houses, reaffirming the government's view that the support from business was a crucial investment for the country's economy.
So much for your loyal and continuous support for the CEO Summit and for APEC. It's a very important sponsorship that it means a lot to ensure that this event is a successful event. The investment and opportunities now and into the future are the ones that are going to benefit you and your companies in the long term. That's what we want. And for your sponsorship to come forward and support what the team is doing, that's greatly appreciated.
So far, the leaders of Japan, Russia, China and America have confirmed their attendance for the closing session of the CEO Summit. And keeping with the theme of digital innovation, PNG is aiming to have sessions live streamed via satellite, something which hasn't been done before for APEC meetings.
And I want to demonstrate to the world that PNG is a bit slow, a little bit backward on technology, but the most important thing, we can do it if we try hard enough to do it.
At this stage, planning is going well, with ABAC PNG confident that the discussions from the CEO Summit will go a long way to influence policies for APEC member countries.
And that's what the APEC year is all about. It's to push the minister and his colleagues to make better policies, to invest in better infrastructure so our economy can blossom and all the private sector in this room can at least breathe a bit easier.
Morobe, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We have more of the day's other stories coming your way after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. 4 Papua New Guineans depart for Japan next week in pursuit of their postgraduate studies under the JICA long-term training program. The successful candidates were among many who vied for the minimum 2-year scholarships depending on their respective programs. Of the 4 participants, 3 will study under the Pacific Leaders Education Assistance for Development of State program and 1 under the Kizuna program, a program aimed at building human resources and networking for sustainable mining development in countries around the world.
The 4 participants in this program were selected from different agencies. The first participant, Amukele Sokive, an inspector within the Mineral Resources Authority, is the only participant under the Kizuna program. He will be studying under the Master of Engineering, Mineral Processing and Recycling at the Akita University. His research will be based around management of waste from mines.
Part of my research will basically be using limestone, and investigate to remove, at least to some extent, most of the heavy metals that are coming out from the waste that we store in dams and all this. So to ensure that we have good waters coming out from the dam into the environment, and it's more environmental friendly.
Edea Loa, a development engineer at Edaranu, will be studying under the Master of Science and Engineering program at the Fukushima University. Among his interests is research on water resource management with intent to create water systems to rural areas in the country. Philemon Nangu is a senior coordinator at the Department of Provincial and Local Level Government Affairs. He will be studying under the Master of Environmental Studies at the Nagoya University. His research will be based on disaster risk management. The only female participant in this batch is 27-year-old Claire Clearwee from the Foreign Affairs and Trade Department. She will be studying under the Masters of Arts in International Relations at the Waseda University.
Because being an observer doesn't make any difference in terms of benefits to the country. We've been spending so much resources in terms of attending the opening and closing sessions and lobbying without so much impact. So that's the research that I'm going to pursue.
In addressing the participants, JICA representative Takashi Toyama encouraged them to make the most of the opportunity so they could contribute effectively to the development of Papua New Guinea and the Pacific. Since the year 2000, 32 officials within different agencies in the country have had the opportunity to study in the long-term trainings. At present, a total of 10 Papua New Guineans are currently undertaking postgraduate studies in various universities in Japan. Charlene Airy, National EMTV News.
For one school in the autonomous region of Bougainville, the recent changes to the school leaver application process has been welcomed with open arms. Year 12 students as well as teachers have welcomed the online application process that is being implemented this year. According to school principal Lucy Oata, the online selection process makes it more flexible for students to consider their options for tertiary studies, with a 3-month window for students to finalize their choices.
Recently, Year 12 students of Hujana Secondary School sat for their written expression exams, the first in their final assessment in their quest to further their education at the tertiary level.
Hujana Secondary School is a government agency school. It's a level 9 secondary school, and we have a total of 33 teachers, and we should have students enrollment of between 800 and 1,000, but our students enrollment has kind of dropped.
For Hujana Secondary, this year marks an exciting change for Year 12 students, as they will now complete their school leaver forms online, a change from the previous manual process.
Previously they had only 2 choices, now it's 5 choices, so it's given more options for the student. The other thing with the online selection, the student will actually know where he's been selected to before it comes out in the papers.
Mr. Tsora adds that the online process now is also more flexible, as it provides a 3-month window for students to complete their choices for tertiary studies. This window opened on August the 1st and will close at the end of October.
Right now, what we are doing now in the schools is open now. On the 1st of August, it's open. So what we are now doing in our school is we are now getting assigned students to the class patrons. Previously, time is very limited. It's also given parents with their kids at home, because they take the pass with them, they can use the laptop at home, for the parents' contribution to the student choices.
Whilst there may be security concerns, the school, like many others around the country, have taken steps to prevent the manipulation of the process by issuing individual tokens through respective class patrons. All in all, there is optimism that this new online method will make it fairer in the selection process for students at the tertiary level.
Invite the students, we'll give them a token number. A token number is like a password, and then a username for them to go in and start filling up their choices and personal information. Security-wise, with the SLF, the areas like marks, it's been blackout from the students. The students are not allowed to go in. They can only access the choices, 5 choices, plus their personal information.
Morobe, National EMTV News.
The PNG Defence Force were at the NCD and Central Korea Expo today, talking to students about opportunities in the military. Students had the chance to sit inside an Australian-leased Bell 212 helicopter.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force is looking to capitalize on school leavers this year at the Korea Expo in Port Moresby, with students learning firsthand what it would be like if they joined the military. The students were treated to a PNGDF Bell 212 chopper landing at the Port Moresby National High School, where students had a feel of the helicopter and asked questions at the PNGDF booth. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Ageva, Director Training and Education, said they were after students with high grades to join the military.
With the increase in the number of grade 12s, like this year, we're expecting over 65,000. The chances of having so many with very high grades is very high. So we will look at those who are coming into the PNGDF who have missed out despite the fact that they all have A's and B's in their grade 12 certificates. We will definitely consider those ones, which now leaves the one scoring C's out of the picture. So we are trying to build the standard of the PNGDF, and that's the whole reason why we will raise the entry requirements for both general enlistees or recruits and also officer cadets.
Major Mark Comet, officer commanding recruitment at the PNGDF headquarters, said interested students had a chance of being recruited in next year's intake.
The next general recruitment would be, we have every year, we have 2 intakes every year. We run 120 in the first part of the year, and then the second half we run another 120 intakes. But for this year, we only have one intake because of the APEC. Probably next year, we will do 2 intakes to meet the set goals and requirements of our 10,000 ceiling as per the 2050 vision. So we are on deadline.
Fideli Sukina, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Second Lieutenant Kabaraka Sean, a pilot with the PNG Defence Force, was also at the Career Expo inspiring interested students about his experience in the military. He's a Bell 206 helicopter jet ranger.
Second Lieutenant Kabaraka Sound is a Bell 206 Jet Ranger and was at the 2018 School Expo providing first-hand information on being a Papua New Guinea Defence Force soldier. Leaving school and not getting any offer after grade 12 in 2011, Kabaraka joined the military and is now a pilot with the PNG DF.
I got transferred up to Igam Barracks in Leh, where I did normal officer cadet training, which was about 18 months. And then I graduated as a second lieutenant. And then in that period, I did pilot entry test. So after being commissioned, we got selected. We were fortunate enough to get selected down to Australia to do chopper pilot training. Yeah. In Australia, we flew the Bell 206, which is a smaller aircraft, single engine. Okay, this particular aircraft, it's a multi-engine, so there's like especially in our line of work, we have to do courses like conversion courses, and then we have to do gather certain hours to be able to fly the aircraft.
He encouraged students to believe in themselves and to be inspired to take up a cause.
I would say that it's not easy, but if you have that mindset and the ability to do so, why not do it? Like if anybody else can do it, like if you can see someone else, someone high up there who he is where he is now, why not you can do it? And then say to yourself, okay, I can do it better.
Major Mark Comet, officer commanding recruitment at the PNGDF headquarters, said they were in talks to include PNGDF as a choice in the school leaver forms in the future.
We are looking at that point, so we will continue to be actively participating in this expo year in, year out, as one of our awareness and marketing way of getting quality candidates. So I'm looking at taking recruitment to that level. There's also dialogue in place by our higher authority to liaise with the appropriate departments within the government system to make military as an option in our school leaver, grade 12 school leaver forms, either online or the manual school leaver form, to give the wider choices for our school leavers to make in their preference to become who they want to be in the future.
Fideli Sukina, National EMTV News.
Since 2016, Laloki Secondary School has been faced with the challenges of no electricity. With a total student population of over 800, 49% of that are boarding students. Studying and completing assignments during the evening has been tough. However, Bank South Pacific, through their community project, officially handed over a completed installation of solar lights to the schools today.
Located approximately 15 kilometers northeast of Port Moresby is Laloki Secondary School. Since early 2016, it has had no electricity, making it difficult for students to do their homework and study, especially during the evening. However, today, that changed.
This had a lot of negative impact on learning at the school. Because, power is a necessity.
BSP, through their community project, funded and over a period of 4 weekends, assisted by contractor Solar Solutions, completed installations in 2 science classrooms, grade 12 classrooms, grade 11 classrooms, 4 girls and boys dormitories, the library, and admin office.
Let's give them a round of applause.
BSP's corporate banking unit officially handed over the completed project to the school and students today. When the sun sets this evening, the whole school will light up.
fantastic to have all the students here. I did let them know that they were going to have to work harder and do more homework. Now they've got solar lighting at night time, but they seem pretty keen to get on with their studies.
Laloki Secondary School is the 19th school to receive assistance from BSP's 2018 community project under the theme of solar lights in high schools. Lilian Soperakinea, National EMTV News.
2 clients from the Salamaua local level government yesterday surrendered 6 guns that were dug out by the locals from a World War II site 2 weeks ago. The war weapons were used in a gunfight on August 4 between the 2 clans that saw 56 houses burnt and more than 200 families homeless. The 2 warring clans, through an MOA, signed a peace agreement. Julie Badui-Oa with this report.
We arrived at Kela village at the World War II site. This is where the gunfight took place on August 4 between Langui and Kela clan of Samoa LLG in UN Gulf District, Morobe. More than 200 families in Kela are currently homeless after 56 homes were set on fire by the Langui clan. Elementary teacher Nasain Kelam and her daughter are one of these homeless victims.
So me ran away want a pikinini blow me la house me go sana panta blow mountain na fire cook him house blow me where me lose him all get all resource blow me lo teach.
The dispute between the 2 clans started when some youth from Langui village went over to Kela village and dug out guns used during the World War II.
I come up because of this World War II gun, na bomb na more even stuff, so all mangi try and base long. Dig him this but government authority pushing me plan stop him, but
the tension worsened between the 2 clans, causing the health officers working at a health center located in Kela village to stop work for their safety.
Long cost lo passing out now, Arapla line walk lo die lo sat na all no feeling good. Lo restoration now we come back na dig so me planetariat.
A 15-man team from PNG DF Engineering Battalion and some police officers intervened to restore peace and ordered both clans to surrender the weapons they dug from the World War II site in Kela village.
What we are here for is basically to come to an understanding of peace in the area which we have achieved today, and the next process of us for my team on the ground as well as the police officials on the ground, we gonna participate, collaborate together to make sure that all the relics are removed from this area before we go back to our various houses.
During a peace agreement ceremony yesterday, 5 guns were surrendered by the Langui clan and 1 from Kela clan, followed by the signing of a MOA by both clans.
This mas round of implant awareness inside the community blom bla we this kind program mas come up lo surrender more guns we and by paving well or development must take place.
Me one bell one them, but the problem is that time heavy eating people lo best place and got really become inside. That is what me play got. Big bell heavy one time, district administration, LG.
There is money on hand readily available. We know that there is a problem here, then we will attend to that, provided we have the funds available. But like I said, we didn't come forward immediately because of funding, and even up until today too.
The only buildings that are currently standing is a church and this elementary classroom. It serves 66 students. Meanwhile, the grade 8 students attending Samoa Primary School will sit for the exams next year. Julie Badui-Oa, National EMTV News, Samoa.
You're with the news on your number 1 to watch. We return to overseas to see what's making the headlines there after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, Italians are demanding answers over the deadly Genoa bridge collapse. Locals say they've been warning about how dangerous the 4-lane highway was for years. Now hundreds of people living near the Morandi Bridge are being forced to leave their homes over safety fears, while some houses may need to be demolished. The death toll currently stands at 38, with up to 20 more missing.
Battered by the weather and patched up over the years, this is the bridge pictured before the collapse. It was in a forlorn and worrying state, and then disaster struck. The tangle of wreckage where there should be the clues that investigators will need, as they ask if the structure was substandard or if the steel had corroded inside the concrete where no one could see. So what went wrong? Well, let's look at a virtual model of the bridge. An unusual design from the 60s. It's needed a lot of reinforcement over the years. A key focus in the investigation will be on these diagonal sections. They're called the stays. They're a mix of steel and concrete, and they carry the road. But they were in bad condition, and I understand were due to be replaced next year. Another weakness might be the anchors that fix the stays to the road. One of them might have rusted and snapped. And then there are steel cables that run through the bridge to give it strength. If they were in poor shape, inspectors might not have noticed. The investigators face a massive challenge, and finding a single answer might not be easy. A big concern is that the concrete was getting old and that water was getting into it and may have weakened the steel inside.
Concrete does deteriorate with time, does age. But the main problem, in fact, in this kind of construction is the steel inside the concrete, which, if corrodes, that can lead to severe problems. And that needs to be investigated, inspected, and maintained.
When the bridge was built, it was heralded as a symbol of futuristic engineering. But the standard of construction back then has left a legacy. Italy now has an estimated 10,000 bridges that need to be modernized. The cost will be tens of billions of euros. And the collapse has sent shockwaves to other countries as well. Inspections are now underway on bridges in France and Germany. The tragedy has sparked a crisis of confidence far beyond Genoa.
Renewed U.S. sanctions are now in effect on Iran. The economic pain meant to force Iran into negotiations with Washington for a new nuclear deal. But the sanctions are yet to bite.
Tehran stood proud for centuries, but now life here changes by the week. Everyone loves a Toyota until it breaks down. Yet renewed American sanctions on cars and their parts, kicking in a week ago, mean that few can afford repairs as spares are drying up. So they sit here for months. 21. Well, 3 times as expensive. So this is just in the last few months, this is now 3 times as expensive as it used to be. These would normally be full, owner Nabiullah says. You'd never think that a spark plug would become such valued currency. Donald Trump thinks that he is pushing the Iranian people to rise up against their government. Do you think that's likely to happen because of what's happening here? No, he says, because the hungrier the people get, the more they're going to hate him. If Trump acted properly, people might even have liked him. Behind every car is a family, and Dawood Taraji is at the heart of the matter. He can't afford the parts to repair his taxi, but that hasn't stopped the monthly repayments on it. And that's led to stark changes at home for Dawood's family, Artin, 7, and daughter Asal, 13. As the local currency also plunges in value, their fancy refrigerator in their plush but tiny 2-room apartment is suddenly emptier. The price of an egg has doubled, he says, just like the price of fresh fruits and vegetables. Milk is about 40% more expensive. These are the middle class that Barack Obama wanted to win over by lifting sanctions under the nuclear deal, but onto whom Donald Trump wants to pile pressure, hoping to force political change. Yet instead, it's Artin's English lessons that may go first, and perhaps Asal's guitar tutor, and then perhaps even the family home will go on the market. The US says Iran's government, not its people, are the target, but it's far more personal and painful here.
Israel's come up with a new way to help deliver peace in the Middle East. It's released 10 tons of parcels and letters addressed to Palestinians that were blocked for nearly a decade. It's part of confidence-building measures between the two sides.
Palestinian postal staff are working overtime in this depot in the occupied West Bank. Israel controls the border with neighbouring Jordan, where the mail was being held. It agreed nearly a decade ago that some international post for Palestinians could be flown into Jordan and brought here, a deal that is taking as long to deliver as these parcels. Thousands of people are still waiting, says the man in charge here.
We are going to do the best as we can to deliver those in a very short time. But let me say that it's better to come later than not to come at ever.
There is 10.5 tons of mail here. It's come from all over the world. I can see a bag over there that's from China. There's one here that's come from Saudi Arabia. Doesn't seem to be much in that. The workers here are saying that it's going to take them at least 2 weeks to process all this, to get it to the people that it has been addressed to. But they say because much of this stuff has been held in neighbouring Jordan for up to 8 years, it's in a pretty terrible condition. There's a bundle of letters here, a letter that's addressed to a charity in the city of Hebron in the West Bank, and something else that's come from Greece. And they're saying, well, just look at the state of that. So somebody's going to be getting that through their letterbox. This wheelchair was destined for Gaza. It was sent from Turkey 3 years ago, but the manager here says the problem is the label's fallen off, so they don't know who was supposed to get this. Israel says the deal to deliver foreign mail to the West Bank via Jordan is still being worked through. It described this transfer as a one-off gesture. Many Palestinians continue to wait in a part of the world where even the post is political.
Dramatic new footage has emerged of a group of pilot whales that got stuck in an Iceland fjord not once but twice. The 100 whales were guided out to sea by experts, only to be found in the same spot a day later.
This is a rescue operation in action. The second in as many days for this pod of around 100 whales. They got stuck after swimming into a fjord. Its opening is both narrow and shallow, making it hard to get out. Police helped guide them into more open waters, and it was hoped they'd go back to sea. But the next day, they were back once again. Cue rescue effort number 2.
Það voru 13 úr vöðinni sem fóru alveg upp í fjöru og við þurftum að
13 of them went all the way to the shore, and we had to deal with them, push them out by hand, and that went very well.
One of the whales even got stuck up on the shore and needed a kayaker to help get free. It's not clear why the group keep going back, but locals say they may be using the incoming tide to help them. And they've certainly attracted quite an audience.
Naturally, this is interesting to see for both foreigners and Icelanders. To view and experience this in nature. You can't see this in an aquarium. This is pure nature, which makes it more interesting.
The group was eventually guided even further out in the hope that they'd find their way to the ocean. That seems to have done the trick, but if they do return, rescue teams will be on hand once again to help them find their way.
The music industry has lost one of its greats. Aretha Franklin, the undisputed Queen of Soul, died today surrounded by loved ones in her home. She was 76. The winner of 18 Grammy Awards, her legacy will see her remembered not just as a singer but a matriarch of music and social revolution.
Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. A revolutionary on stage and off, for 6 decades she reigned supreme with her powerful and unrivaled voice. The daughter of a preacher, her career began at this church in Detroit.
I was born and raised in Detroit. Born, on her music. Raised on her music. Yeah, it's a sad day.
I'm a miss seeing her in concerts, but I still got her music to the bone, so I'm good.
She would go on to win 18 Grammys, have 20 Billboard #1 hits, and become the first woman inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She was awarded America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom by George W. Bush. But Aretha Franklin was more than an entertainer, she was a force.
A lot of men intimidated by me. A real man is not going to be intimidated by me.
Her songs intertwined with American history. She used her music during the civil rights movement to call for justice and equality, and sang at her friend Dr. Martin Luther King's funeral after his assassination in Memphis.
Aretha Franklin's music and life showed the growth and empowerment of blacks in America. She was our soundtrack.
And she was there at the inauguration of this country's first African-American president. Like many who heard her sing, Obama was moved to tears during her tribute to Carole King. Today, he said she helped define the American experience. As an artist, she reinvented herself over 6 decades in the spotlight, finding new inspiration across the generational divide. Today, the tributes flowed for her from Hollywood, New York and beyond. Paul McCartney, Bill Clinton, Elton John saying I adored her and worshipped her talent. But for Aretha, that talent was just who she was.
Music is my thing. That's who I am.
Aretha Franklin died at home, surrounded by loved ones. She was 76.
True Guy Sports is next. Don't go away.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. SP PNG Hunters halfback Watson Boas has been struggling with an injury but is confident he will be ready for this weekend's clash. After undergoing some physiotherapy, Boas was able to play in last weekend's match and is looking forward to their last home game against the winner Manly Seagulls.
As one of the senior players, during the start of the season, we're struggling a bit because of many new boys and faces in the team. But towards the end, all the new boys pick up to the standard of the Intra Super Cup. And yeah, as for myself, I believe the boys can make it to the finals and even to the top. Yeah, the boys, coaching staff, especially coach, is concentrating on the defense. That's what we lacked through the season. But yeah, now the defense for the boys were good. The boys play defense like a team, and yeah, we can see the teamwork in the team now. It will be the last home game, and yeah, to the supporters and especially sponsors, I like to ask everyone to come along on Sunday and support our boys. The boys will give their best for the last home game in front of their home crowd, and yeah, we'll bring back the first home semi if we finish 5th or 3rd. So yeah, see you guys in the finals weekend.
PNG's track and field athlete Peniel Richard addressed a gathering of business leaders in Lae last week at a breakfast hosted by the Lae Chamber of Commerce to discuss business opportunities. Richard, the PNG national record holder in both the long and triple jump, spoke about his experiences as an athlete attending university in the United States. Following the function, Athletics PNG made a presentation to U.S. Ambassador Catherine Ebert-Gray and her delegation about its athletes currently attending colleges in the U.S. To rugby, since the Rugby World Sevens Cup in San Francisco, players around the country will now have to prepare to earn a spot in this year's Oceania Sevens qualifiers in Suva, Fiji in November. PNG Rugby Football Union will host a selection trial event in mid-October to identify and scout potential talents into the train-on squad for both the PNG Pukpuks and Palais. New players selected for both the men's and women's national teams are the ones travelling for the two-day event, which kick-starts on Wednesday 10th October to 11th October in Suva, Fiji. True Guy Sports continues with more after these messages. Stay tuned.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome back to True Guy Sports. The All Blacks have had their last run ahead of tomorrow night's big Bledisloe opener in Sydney, and for returning captain Kieran Reid in particular, game time can't come soon enough.
He often gives the impression of being close to indestructible on the field, but a long layoff after back surgery last December reminded everyone this rugby hard man is human.
He's had that moment where shit, this could be all over. So to be back leading the team and playing as well as he is, he comes in with some confidence but some real genuine excitement.
Kieran Reid back to fronting at today's captain's run at the famous old North Sydney Oval.
Getting an injury like I had, there's a few doubts that do float around, but once I got on the process of recovery, I'm in a good space right now.
When he has been out with injury and he comes back, he's able to perform. So he's just as threat as he usually is.
The irony is there's arguably more concern over Hooper himself, who hasn't played a game in 2 months after suffering a hamstring injury in the June tests.
And as the Wallabies hope to draw back some fans tomorrow night, earlier today New Zealand's teams proved their pulling power, even in rugby league dominated Sydney. The All Blacks and Black Ferns combining for a promotional event ahead of tomorrow's double header.
We've had heaps of awesome support since we've been over here, so hoping for a good turnout.
The Black Ferns bidding to keep their unbeaten record against the Wallaroos intact before it's the All Blacks' turn, ready to use last year's loss to Australia in Brisbane as an added motivator.
Yeah, obviously it leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth after any sort of loss.
They certainly won't want to risk handing anything over to the Aussies, least of all the early advantage in the Bledisloe.
A former Wallabies prop is warning the All Blacks had better be on guard against his own side tomorrow night.
Toby Smith is back with Waikato after 6 tests for Australia, and he's tipping another close contest.
I've been in camp the last few weeks working very hard on that, and they had a game as well amongst themselves to prepare, so I think it'll be a competitive game.
While Smith has bolstered the young Mooloo's pack, halfback Jack Stratton has just arrived from the winning Canterbury and Crusaders environment.
I thought the challenge to come up and join Waikato and get out of my comfort zone in a new group would be really good for me.
New head coach John O'Gibbs can call on 10 years' experience in France and Ireland.
The key thing that we've tried to work really hard on is just repeatable habits and those things in our preparation that we can control.
If the side is seeking inspiration in its bid to return to the top tier, turn the clock back 12 years when Gibbs and his assistants Roger Randall and Nathan White were in a star-studded Waikato squad that won the national title.
Ryan Fox is back in New Zealand for a well-deserved 2 weeks off after his impressive showing at the last 2 majors of the year. The Kiwi golfer today swung his clubs at the fun-over-form Stephen Adams Invitational, but will soon be back on the European Tour's fairways, aiming to have a crack at the world's top 50.
Spot the odd one out. Amongst this who's who of New Zealand sport's self-proclaimed hackers is golf's world number 77.
Get in the hole!
4 days after a strong top 30 showing at the PGA Championship in Missouri, Ryan Fox today wowed those gathered for Stephen Adams' invitational event in Auckland.
Hopefully there's no expectation for me to go out to shoot 61 or something like that today.
But Fox's expectations on himself are now sky high. The result in the States is his best finish in a major.
Well, that was Ryan Fox's second shot on 14. A very solid week for the New Zealander.
That, as well as 11 straight cuts made, 2 of which were at the US Open and Open Championship, have propelled him to a career-high ranking. The top 50 is now in arm's reach.
The top 50 does guarantee the WGCs, all the majors, and then open some doors in the US as well.
Those doors include the Players' Championship and other invitational events on the lucrative PGA Tour. He can perform well in them to get his card instead of going through qualification.
Guys like Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Rafa Cabrera Bayo, they've all done it that way, and it's definitely possible. So that would be the, I guess, plan A if I can play well enough to do it.
There's one other carrot dangling in the States, and that's a shot at the green jacket at the Masters.
I've ticked off the other 3 majors now, and would love to get a chance to play at Augusta.
He's manufacturing his schedule to help him achieve it, targeting the big run home, including the European Masters and Tour Championship. Judging by his year so far, he could be in line for a big breakthrough.
And that ends Sky Sports. Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Sky Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Quick look at tonight's weather in the southern region. Rain drizzles in Kerema and Popondetta. In the Momase region, Mostly fine in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorengau. And in the Highlands region, partly cloudy in Kundiawa and Goroka.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Friday, 17th of August 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, pleasant viewing and good night.